What's going on? It's time for some Elite Speak here with your AEW Dynamite review for April the 14th, 2021. And for a taped episode, this was a pretty darn solid one. Let's waste no time. We kicked off the night with the Young Bucks explaining why they did what they did in the main event last week when they betrayed Jon Moxley. They thanked Mox for pushing them above the edge, and in the end, they chose friendship. So we will get a continuation of that in the first match, but following this, we had MJF, whom interrupted Mike Tyson, who was giving us a few words, and MJF says, keep your friends close, but you keep your enemies closer. And MJF tries to persuade Mike Tyson. MJF attempted to bribe Mike Tyson since he would be the enforcer for the Jericho Dax Harwood match later that night. And in the end, it did not work because MJF handed Tyson a blank check, which Tyson ripped up, chewed up in his mouth, and spit it back out at MJF. So he was going to call it down the middle. Then we kicked off the night with one of the best matches in AEW's short history. Pac and Phoenix of the Death Triangle versus the Young Bucks, the AEW World Tag Team Champions. The Bucks come out with Don Callis with their new attitude. And they were wearing some Dior's, some very expensive sneakers, which had some sneakerheads talking, which was smart because that got some eyes on the product as well. Pac and Matt kicked off the match. In the end, the Bucks retained due to ripping off Rey Fenix's mask as he was defenseless and he fell to stereo super kicks from the Bucks. And that was the end of that. Great match, and it got a lot of praise from folks. And this surely to get like 4.5 stars from Meltzer. Following that, we had a Dark Order segment. The Dark Order and Hangman Page were interviewed by Alex Marvez, and it was mentioned that Page is the #1 ranked guy for now, and he could be getting a title shot soon. Also, Marvez asked about Kenny Omega and the Bucks, but Page did not answer that question. He ignored it and instead drank a bit more. So that could be a sign of things to come. Silver also tested the strength of his shoulder, showing off that he is on the road to recovery. So good on him. Following that, we had Alex Marvez in the Inner Circle with Mike Tyson backstage. Jericho and Tyson aren't enemies anymore. Jericho felt they ought to right their wrongs. The first call he made was to Mike. Maybe he could, and he asked maybe he could come down to Jacksonville to have their backs for this match. He wants Mike to call it straight down the middle. And Mike said he will call it down the middle. And he's not taking sides. And if Jericho messes up, there's a chance he'll get knocked out. So Tyson is playing no favorites. Then we kicked off another match, the first women's match of the night, and it was pretty good. Red Velvet taking on Jade Cargill. Velvet kicks it off with fast strikes, but Cargill pump kicks her to the mat not long after this. Velvet continued to get on the offense early because that was her only way to stop the powerful Jade. And in the end, it was not enough. After Red Velvet missed a top rope moonsault, Jade wins with her finisher Jaded off of that failed moonsault attempt. And just like that, Jade picks up the win. She's on a win streak right now, and if they're smart, they would keep booking her to win because she's looking pretty good in these matches. And she has completely turned it around for herself. Not that long ago, people were actually dumping on her for her promo skills, etc. when she first debuted. But now that people seen her in the ring, she is actually gaining a lot of new fans. So there's that. Goes to show, be patient, wait and see what you get. Then we followed that up with Britt Baker with Tony Schiavone going over the ranking system pretty much. And she says that she will be on Elevation and Dark, etc., getting her wins up. And she has been doing just that. And in the end, this is leading to a Britt Baker title match with Sheeta. I believe that will be at Double or Nothing in the future, near future. Should be good. Following that up, we had Anthony Ogogo of the Factory's debut match. He went up against Cole Carter. This match did not last long at all. Both tied up to start, and eventually Ogogo punches Cole in the gut after a lockup, and he wins via ref stoppage. A lot of people criticize this due to the fact that the ref didn't even check Carter all that long after he got punched in the gut. They argued that he should have at least looked over the guy for a bit before calling for the bell, but instead he called immediately. And I can see why that may be a nitpick from some folks. But in the end, Ogogo looked pretty good in his short debut, and eventually I think we'll see him unleash more of what he can do in the ring when it comes to wrestling moves. Following that, we had a Miro vignette. He sends a message to his friend Kip, and he asks, where is he? He just wants to talk. And I don't believe he wants to talk. He wants to beat down Kip. And this is leading to the split of Kip Sabian with Penelope and Miro. This is what we've all wanted for months now. The split is finally happening, and Miro is going on a rampage. He's going to start tearing up the roster. That's what we all want to see. So eventually we're going to see that match, and he might catch up with Kip next week or the week after that. It's going to be soon, though. Looking forward to that massacre when it happens. So we followed that up with Dax Harwood of FTR and the Pinnacle versus Chris Jericho with Mike Tyson as the enforcer of the Inner Circle. Both guys go for weapons on the outside. This is not long after the match starts. But Tyson grabs the weapons from both Jericho and Dax as they grab them one after another. And as a result, Tyson is going by his word. He's sticking to his word of calling it down the middle. Jericho wins in the end, but not till after Cash gets knocked out by Tyson's right hand on the outside. So he was taken out of the equation. Not a bad match, except for the run-ins, which kind of took away from it a bit. They got to tone that down. Tony, you got to tone that down. Otherwise, the more you do it, the less meaning it is going to have. Following that, we have an elite segment. They say, why do you change? They say they never changed. They just got sick of doing what we wanted them to do. Now they're going to be just like themselves. Pretty much, they were going against what some of the people felt that they should have been doing to start. So instead, now they're going to do what they want to do. And we're going to get the Bucks and the Elite of old. Following this up, we had a debut match and an in-ring return. Kris Statlander makes her in-ring AEW Dynamite return after almost 11 months out with her ACL injury. And she went up against Amber Nova, making her AEW debut. And Amber Nova didn't get much offense in here at all. Maybe we'll see her more going forward on Dark, etc. But Kris Stat performed her first boop of the year. She did it to the referee, Paul Turner. And in the end, Stat wins with her Big Bang Theory Cradle Tombstone finish. And that was it. She looked good. She hasn't missed a beat. And it's almost as if she never left. So looking forward to seeing more matches with Kris Statlander. We followed that up with a Team Taz interview. And they're looking into Cage. Taz says it's best for Starks and Cage to stay backstage due to their hot-headedness, pretty much. And after this, Christian Cage has an interview with Tony Schiavone. But first for both, Tony Khan is giving Cage an open contract. And by Cage, I mean Christian Cage. Not long after he says that, Taz interrupts, of course. Cage says Team Taz is a bit of a dumpster fire, which might have some truth to it there. He gives his answer, and his answer is no, because of the fact that Team Taz had the nerve to interrupt Christian's interview, so they made it an easy no. Taz said that's the worst mistake you can make. He sicked Hobbs on Cage, Christian Cage. Hobbs steps up to Cage. After a war with words, Christian swings at Hobbs, but Hobbs eventually takes Christian down, but Christian goes for the kill switch. He then gets distracted by Hook up on the apron, and this gives Hobbs the opportunity to lay him out on the outside via a flapjack. Hobbs then finishes the beat down via stepping on Cage's head while he's laid out on the steel steps near the entrance ramp. Hobbs looked good, showing his brutality, his heel side. And that sets up a match for next week. Will Powerhouse Hobbs versus Christian Cage. That should be interesting. A first time matchup. Then we had the main event. Matt Hardy versus Darby Allin for the AEW TNT Championship. This was a good match, minus one thing, and we'll get into that. Early in the match, Darby goes for a coffin drop to Matt, but he gets knocked out in the air via a chair shot to his back. This slows Darby down for a bit in the match. In the end, Darby wins via a coffin drop to Hardy as he was lying on the announce table, and this marks the first time ever in AEW that an announce table was broken. And it came at the hands of Darby Allin as he leaped off of some kind of beam not far from the announce table. And it looked pretty good. And the one thing that I didn't care too much for in regards to this match was that a run-in happened yet again, which took away from the match a bit. You had guys like Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky getting involved. You had the Dark Order out there. You had Lance Archer out there. You had Sting out there. You had just about everybody out there. And I know why they did it. It was their way of writing more storylines, getting more stories to play out, setting up more angles for the future, but they could have done that another way. It just takes away from the matches themselves when they do all these run-ins. It was cool at first, but the more you do it, the more it's gonna not be so great. So they gotta tone that down, otherwise you're gonna get more backlash from it. Come on, I know you can do it. You gotta resist. Well, all in all, it was a solid episode of Dynamite, and it proved to be in regards to what the ratings were. And this was Dynamite's first episode unopposed to NXT, and they got a pretty good rating. Dynamite ended up with a 1.2 million-ish viewers for the night, and it was number 2 on cable. And they got a 0.44 in the coveted 18 to 49 demo. This was great news for AEW and wrestling in general. NXT on their own night, they got about 802,000 viewers, and they were number 8 on the night for Tuesday. Good stuff from both. Hopefully the numbers hold steady and eventually rise as the weeks go on. And there you have it. There was your AEW Dynamite review for April 14th, 2021. And I will catch you again with the next one. Have a good one.